Hi, how's it going? This is Resin of Color for YouTube back with another Dark Shadows video for you guys and gals. I'm here to continue my reviews of Dark Shadows from the beginning, episode 12, narrated by Alexander Mulkey Isles, written by Art Wallace, directed by Leila Swift. This episode opens at Widow's Hill, of all places. Now, when I say opens, a lot of the teasers you're gonna see open with the backdrop of the Great House. And they do that. But immediately it goes from the Great House to Widow's Hill. You see Victoria Winters walking along Widow's Hill, and she's standing there, and you get these really cool wind effects in Dark Shadows that I absolutely love. They sound like ghosts. They sound like a bunch of old women wailing, and great job. Who I love the wind effects in this episode. It's one of my favorite things about it, outside of the acting, of course. And as Victoria Winters is standing there, you see that she looks at in the distance, and there's somebody coming up to her, and it's Roger Collins, and he walks right toward her. You get some ominous music. The opening plays. So the teaser is a bit of a tease, and sometimes you're just gonna have that to bring you back to the hook. Well, this is our hook. This is what we want you to come back to, and coming back you are. At least I am. Yes, I am a Dark Shadows mark and fan, and I always will be. So you have an interesting conversation on top of Widow's Hill. Now, catch what Roger says in this episode. Roger says, "Did somebody ask for me today?" I've been talking about this throughout the review of this part. And what I mean by this part, this is literally it's Victoria's first full day at Collinwood, but it's the day after she arrived. This is also the same day she threatened to leave. So we're still on that day. um, I'm sorry. So I really like that fact that we are still on that day. And by the way, it's nighttime, so Roger asks if anybody asked for him today, and if someone asked for him on this hill, and she goes, "Yeah, he wouldn't tell me his full name, just that his name was Sam." So what Victoria's meaning here is, I didn't get his full name, and that's what I'm basically saying. All By the way, I think this episode should have a title, and it should be titled "Nowhere to Run." I'll tell you why here in a moment. So every you get that. Then you get the scene between Maggie and Catherine Lee Scott's Maggie Evans and her father Sam Evans, still played by Mark Allen. Mark Allen at this point. I really love. This is my favorite scenes in these episodes, despite the scenes at Widow's Hill. Though I love, again, my favorite fictional location is Widow's Hill. Um, I love these scenes the most because any scenes we get with relatives, such as father daughter, is always important character building, and it is here too. You see that Kathleen Lee Scott says, "Why, Pop? Why?" Her character Maggie even says, "Why?" Sam Evans is wanting to leave Collinsport. He thinks that it'll spell danger and doom for him if he stays. What he's really scared of is who. First of all, would Roger? There's a lot of things Sam is scared and paranoid of. Again, we can point to Roger's paranoia in the episodes, but we also have to point out to Sam Evans's own paranoia, especially in this episode, most of all. I do think he had paranoia prior. I just think it comes to a big forefront. Not the biggest forefront, but it comes to a pretty big forefront here in this episode because you see he's wanting to leave, and he tells Maggie he's wanting to leave without really ever explaining why he wants to leave. He just wants to leave. to her, but to us, we know why well, if you're a DS fan, if you've watched this, you know why he wants to leave. He thinks he'll be destroyed, and I love how that she's like, why? Why do you want to leave? I'll just go away. Why? She keeps hammering him, why? And really, have a very, very, very good, uh, a very good thing going on here. Oh, by the way, I jumped an act. Well, no, not an act. Act one is still Sam, or sorry, Act one is Sam Evans wants to skip town, and it's a very short, brief conversation. And as Maggie Evans is trying implicates that it has something to do with Roger Collins, and for whatever Sam's like, no, no, but he still wants to leave. The second act, if you will, um, there's an argument ensues. Roger Collins and Vicky are still talking. By the way, in this whole sequence of the Widow's Hill, of at Widow's Hill, Roger is telling the story of the legends of the widows. Again, we don't get their name. We also hear from Roger that the three women came to the top of the hill to mourn their lovers who were lost at sea. There was no mass over the horizon, and when Jeremiah, the Collins family ancestor, chose to build his house on this hill, on top of Widow's Hill, um, he told them to take their sorrows elsewhere. He told them to leave. And we know that that's not really Jeremiah, that's Joshua. And so, but it's the legend. Again, I've talked about how all legends affect storytelling. This is a prime example of it in DS, especially. We have a legend that includes a member of the Collins family. How legit is the legend of Widow's Hill? First of all, the legend of Widow's Hill about the three women jumping is straight up legitimate from a fictional sense. Um, the Jeremiah thing you can debate. So, and the wind is still doing that howling sound. She goes, that is just the wind. Whatever you say, you know. Burke's trying to, or sorry, Roger is trying to scare Victoria Winters, and he's doing a good job of it. Um, is there anything? Is there, Roger asks, is there anything else that Victoria tells Roger that so many things have happened that he forgot that she did forget to tell him about the man on the hill. And he throws a rock out to the ocean and he goes like having coffee with Bert Devlin. And she looks like he goes, you see, Miss Winters, I do know about it. And he's not too happy. And she goes, I don't, do you want me to apologize? You know, she says something to the effect of, do you want me to apologize? Or I don't know if I owe you an apology. And Roger says, I don't think I asked for an apology. And what Roger does tell her is that Burke is still a dangerous man. Again, that he is a threat to him and the Collins family and anybody as associated with them. What he really wants her to do, and it's stressed in this episode, is to go home. Um, and it's that's one of the best arguments too. By the way, this continues in Act Three. Sam, as again, it goes back and forth between this and what goes on at the Evans cottage. Sam prepares to leave. Um, and Maggie reminds Bert, or Maggie reminds her dad, Sam, of what she once told her that when her mother was that nothing more can harm them if they stick to nothing can harm them if they stick together. And I love that little reminder. And we do get a mention Though not by name, we do get a mention of Maggie's mother and the fact that she did die. Again, I've always talked about, when I talk about Maggie's mother, I think she died of cancer. Because they don't say what she died of, but it sounds like she died of something really slow and painful. Um, Roger tells Vicky to go back to New York before Burke kills everyone at Collinwood. Um, he doesn't really say Burke kills everybody. It's Victoria who actually says he isn't going to kill us all. And Roger says it wouldn't be the first violent death on this hill. And that is such a great line. You hear Carolyn's voice in the background yelling for Roger, and Vicky hollers that they're over here. And that's when Carolyn them, finds Victoria and Roger on top of Widow's Hill, and Carolyn tells Roger that her mother wants to see him, that Elizabeth wants to see him. Now, she doesn't say Elizabeth, but I'm saying Elizabeth. Pronouns, pal. Oh, God. Also, they leave, as Roger leaves, Carolyn asks, "What was that about?" And Vicky says, honestly, Burke Devlin. She goes, "That's funny. That's it. That's who's in the drawing room with Mother." And Vicky gives Carolyn this look. We get Sam again. Sam continues to deny to Maggie that it was Roger Collins calling him. There was a phone call in this episode. The phone kept ringing. Um, Here's the thing of this. It couldn't have been Roger. So who was calling? You want to hear something? You you want to hear her? I think who was calling in this episode? And no, it wasn't Roger. He's just Sam isn't lying. I honestly think this is a call by the ghost, though it's never officially canonized of who called. I think this is just one of the ghosts messing around. Like, you know what? Sam's talking about events and wanting to run. Let's make that phone ring. In all fairness, this is a great job by the writers and production team to make the phone ring to plant some doubt in Maggie's mind of what's really going on or what could be going or plant thoughts of what could be going on. Great job by the writers here by doing this. Sam's not lying though. This isn't Roger Collin. There's no phones on top of Widow's Hill. There's none that I know of. Maggie does ask her father if he really thinks running away uh, will save him from whatever is troubling him. Really, what she's really asking him is, do you think running away will solve your problems? That you'll be able to outrun this? And Sam goes, no. He also shakes his head. This is another reason I would title this Nowhere to Run. Because it's not just Sam who has been running. He's just somebody who wants to run now. In many ways, Roger's been avoiding Burke. He's confronting everybody else, but he's been sort of running away from Burke. Well, by the end of this episode, and I'll come back to that, um, Carolyn and Vicky return to Collinwood, and Carolyn suggests to Victoria that she see Matthew Morgan. Maybe he knows something about the events 18 years ago. What happened? That Matthew has been working here longer than anybody, or has been at Collinwood longer than anybody. Outside of Elizabeth. See, Carolyn. I like what Carolyn does here, but I always wondered with this. Carolyn can't know. Carolyn does believe in her own mind that Matthew Morgan's been here longer than anybody, but really he hasn't. He hasn't been there longer than her mother. He got hired after the fact of uh, Carolyn's father leaving. So he hasn't been there forever, been there longer than Elizabeth. Um, and so, yeah, Carolyn's alluding to maybe Matthew knows something about Vicky's past. So Victoria leaves, and then she's headed to the cottage. By the way, we know that in this episode, we hear Carolyn says it's 100 yards to Matthew Morgan's cottage. So think about this: it's from the house to Matthew Morgan's cottage is the length of a goddamn football field. I love it. It also gives segue to how large that the grounds are larger than what we think. If it's only just 100, it's 100 yards is a long distance, but it isn't the biggest space on the grounds. Yep, it's 100 yards to the cottage. I wonder what it is to the old house. We don't get that here. Um, so Roger comes down the stairs. Carolyn does tell, "Oh, I thought you were in the drawing room." Roger just tells her, "Well, uh, no, I gotta go into town." And she goes, "But Burke Devlin's in there." And she tells her Uncle Roger that she brought him here. And I love this here where he goes, "How could you?" It lets Carolyn know that Vicky was probably right. Roger is debating on running, on leaving. He doesn't. He takes his coat off and gets ready to go into the drawing room, which is going to lead into our next episode. You know, I said I would entitle this episode Nowhere to Run, because literally for both Sam Evans and both Roger Collins, Roger, who has been throughout these episodes avoiding Burke, running from where Burke is and going back to a place that's safe to him. Sam, who has been wanting to leave this entire episode and has been possibly thinking about running and leaving, who has been running away by drinking himself into a bottle. Both men now realize there's nowhere left to run and to hide. And that's what I said I would title this Nowhere to Run, because for both men, there now is nowhere to run. And one man in particular, well, both men really have to face their demons. You have Roger, who has to face Burke, literally face to face, and Sam, who has to get up the courage to face Burke. It's a great episode, and it should be watched over and over again. Guys, go check out episode 12 on Tubi if you can. If you have the Coughlin box set, go check it out. Really great episode. My favorite scene, the 100 yards. My favorite scene is when Carolyn says it's 100 yards to Matthew Morgan's cottage. It's my favorite scene. Oh, sorry. Well, my second favorite scene. My favorite scene I've talked about is the scenes between Maggie and her father Sam. They're really good. And again, it's great character building. We finally have built a. Finally understand the relationship between. Somewhat understand the relationship between Maggie and her father. Maggie is going to pry information out of her father because look, Maggie is a nosy lady and she's a spitfire. She is also a take no prisoners kind of character. She never loses a sass. We love her for it. Um, just a great episode and fun to watch. It's again my favorite sequences. My favorite scenes involve Maggie and her dad. I think they're so criminally underrated. I just love the. Okay, my favorite line is the 100 yards line, but it's 100 yards to Matthew Morgan's cottage. Victoria's gonna go to the end zone. You guys have a good day.